I have anxiety. It's not enough to where it's taken seriously or is even debilitating. But it's enough to where I won't go outside if there's anyone around. I won't send emails to potential employers, and I don't send messages asking my friends if they want to hang out. At the start of 2024, I experienced what might be my most anxious months ever. I had just started work on my bachelor's thesis. I was studying at a 150% rate. I was looking for a job or an internship. I was taking on extracurricular courses to enhance my chance of being employed. I was working with a student-run initiative. I made my to-date 2 most demanding videos. I streamed every week. I made 2 shorts every day. I was going through a breakup, and I was constantly worrying about my future. I'm not telling you all this to get sympathy, but rather to put you in the headspace I was in as I started my playthrough of Lies of P. A quick heads up, I'll be talking about the story and show footage of Dark Souls, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, as well as Lies of P. So here's your spoiler warning. Lies of P is a challenging game, with a heavy focus on boss battles, environmental world building, and growing together with the character, Pinocchio. While you can upgrade P's weapons, moves, and arsenal, you, the player, will get better as you fight your way through the game. Just looking at the footage, you might be thinking to yourself, that's just Dark Souls. But it's not, at least not to me. Whenever I play a Soulslike, I get anxious. It's part of the experience. And while being anxious isn't everyone's idea of fun, sometimes the anxiety of losing some progress in a video game is preferable to the idea that in less than 4 months, you'll be forced to move out, be unemployed, and be all alone. Dark Souls is not for me. It just doesn't hit right. While it has extensive lore, amazing world design, and popularized a style of gameplay which is now synonymous with its title. But to me, something about the layout of the world, the boss designs, and the lack of direct storytelling keeps it from being great in my mind. In 2022, I spent a lot of time playing Elden Ring, and it was the first time I enjoyed my time with a FromSoft game. Basic explanations of the story, most of the mechanics, and the layout of the land between simplified the world and made it easier for me to engage with what I found lacking in Dark Souls 1. Games like Jedi Fallen Order, Fury, and even Hollow Knight takes inspiration from the Souls-like genre, but they tend to be easier for me to attach to. If it's with a map, a linear story, or even just less annoying runbacks to a boss, these things can make me feel a structure which is otherwise unpresent in my daily life. There are many reasons why we play games. There are many reasons why we like the things we like. Online, there are multiple videos about people who describe how Dark Souls saved their life. That's the most impressive an important gift a game can give you. A sense of purpose. The strength to carry on. Dark Souls, with its focus on getting knocked down and getting back up again. Its twisted world, which makes you locked on to every hint of solace, and the lore, which is almost impossible to piece together alone, creates this sense of perseverance. But this perseverance is not the kind of perseverance I need. I like very clear goals. Maybe not always too clear, but a nudge in the correct direction to where I have a goal in mind. While there are some directions in Dark Souls, if you speak to every NPC, the world is designed in such a way where you can take any path at any time. For some, the exploration of finding whichever path is intended, or at least suitable to your current strength, enhances the experience. But for me, it's what ruins it. On a first playthrough, I tend to suffer from the fear of missing out, or also known as collector's anxiety. I feel bad skipping rooms, areas, and items, and in a game where any item could be useful, that anxiety is even stronger. Sekiro does a pretty good job at counteracting this. In Sekiro, your upgrade materials, the prayer beads and the memories of battle are dropped from boss enemies. Sure, in Dark Souls you get a lot of souls from defeating a boss, but you need to allocate those souls between leveling up, upgrading your weapons, and buying key items. In Sekiro, your upgrade materials can only be used for one thing, and those items are the most important ones in the game. Sekiro does give you a choice on where to go, to some degree, but it's not always very clear on where to go next. The difference, at least for me, is that in Sekiro I feel less limited despite not knowing where to go. I don't dread losing souls in the same way. I'm not worried about losing progress, and I don't feel that anxiety of facing a boss which I can't beat because of my low level. In Sekiro there is fast travel, which means if you want to get stronger before proceeding, you can always get back to your current location. When you've learned how these worlds fit together, this is not that much of an issue anymore. But those first few hours in Dark Souls, when you don't have the Lord Vessel, are some of the most anxiety-inducing hours of a first playthrough. I struggle a lot with speaking my mind. To express my passions and dislikes, or even just make small decisions which might impact others. There are multiple ways to structure a video. How can I express my thoughts effectively? I don't necessarily feel very important to other people, and I tend to neglect personal relations because of that. As a 22-year-old, I was invited to my first ever surprise party, and I didn't expect that to hit me as hard as it did. As a private person, I worried about my inclusion and the possibility of my presence not being a happy surprise. Being invited hit me because for once in a very long time, I felt like I was included, that I was wanted. I never really felt like I fit in with my classmates, and I've always had a very small group of friends. So being invited made me feel seen, part of the group, less isolated. I'm not really sure how to tie this back in with Soulslike, other than that feeling of isolation. Playing Soulslikes, there are easy strategies. There are summons which can help you in battle, and there are guides online where you can get help from experienced players. But I've always felt like a fraud for taking the aid of others. How can I tell people that I beat Elden Ring with summons and spells? That I'm super excited about having beaten this bitch-ass monkey, or even just the fact that I missed this path that is super obvious without using a guide. Some of these games don't make me feel strong despite of my isolation, but rather I feel lost because of it. I don't feel like I'm part of the Souls-like community, because I fear the judgment of not playing the game in the way that the community thinks they're supposed to be played. I know people can be very helpful in these forums, and using the wiki is not a sign of defeat. But I've never felt very comfortable asking for help. I've always seen the ability of completing a task, finishing an assignment, or beating a game to be something that gives me inherent value. To me, asking for help has always felt like failure. And if I fail, I don't bring any value. It sometimes feels like there's just too many things going on. A new assignment, another issue at work, another relationship which doesn't work out. It's like you're dealing with one thing just for another to hit you in the back of your head. The gank fights in Lies of P I find to be perfect. Sure, Dark Souls has the Ornstein and Smough fight, which is famous for being the best gank fight that FromSoft has ever made. But personally, I find that the Black Rabbit Brotherhood is a perfect fight with 4 enemies. Ornstein and Smough only has one issue, and it's that you have to be really, and I mean really, patient. Sure, you can get very overpowered and just stomp them, but that's not really the point of the game now, is it? No. They're a roadblock because sometimes you need to wait multiple minutes for just one opportunity to get a hit in. And every second in the fight is another second where you need to have full focus on both Ornstein and Smough to not have half your HP to be demolished in the blink of an eye. Now I realize some people have an issue with the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, but personally, I think it's the best fight in the entirety of Lies of P. Not only does it start with an intro cinematic which goes insanely hard, but it's then followed with a battle where you need to be flexible and aware at all times. And once you finish the fight, there's another cinematic which sets up a future battle which will stay in the back of your head. The battle is focused on the eldest brother of the Brotherhood, but at certain health thresholds, the siblings will come and join the battle. In this video by Elvis the Alien, he describes how he decided to ignore the siblings and just go for the eldest brother. But personally, I dealt with the Brotherhood very differently. Once a sibling joins the battle, the eldest brother gets less aggressive, allowing you to focus on the sibling and take them out one by one. If you don't take out the siblings one by one, they will start piling up and make the battle exponentially harder. By dealing with the Brotherhood one by one, I was able to reduce this major roadblock into tiny fractions and turn the battle, which Elvis claimed to be one of the more annoying ones, into my personal favorite. Similarly to our real-world problems. As they start piling up, it gets harder to deal with. But by taking a break, focusing on one specific task, and following through, it can help lighten the burden. As of writing this, I've been playing Dark Souls 3 with my brother, and the guidance that he brings is invaluable, and I haven't really thanked him for that. So, thank you. Navigating Lothric with you has allowed me to enjoy the gameplay, take part of the world, and forget my anxiety and my loneliness for a while. And that means a lot. While summons trivialize what arguably is the best part of these games, the boss fights, having a companion sometimes is the only reason you're able to experience those bosses. I can sometimes feel like I'm standing still. I know what I should do, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Doing the dishes, vacuuming, or cleaning the bathroom. I know that these things have to be done, but more often than not, I feel overwhelmed by the idea of even starting these tasks, and I'm lucky if I get a random surge of energy. But at the same time, doing fulfilling tasks like writing a video essay like this, figuring out what's for dinner, or even just finding something new to learn can be daunting because of the amount of choices. I want to try everything and anything, but how can I choose today what I'll be interested in learning about in a year or a month? Sekiro and Lies of P are similar in many ways. The fighting has a heavy emphasis on parrying attacks. Both the main characters have a prosthetic arm, and there are multiple side quests that are spread out across the game. The prosthetic arm changes the dynamic of fights in comparison to other Soulslikes. Certain enemies can be weak against specific prosthetic arms. Some arms can induce debuffs, and all of the arms introduce new utility to your arsenal. Both the games allow you to pick and choose whichever prosthetic you want to use. The flexibility allows for a varied fighting system, and especially in Sekiro, whichever prosthetic you use will impact how you deal with an obstacle. Lies of P also introduces the ability to mix and match the different blades and handles, allowing you to create a weapon which is suited to your playstyle as well as your current objective. In these types of games, it's very easy to end up using the same weapons, the same attacks, or approach a problem in the same way every time. But this added variation allows you to test new ways of interacting with the battle system. It feels good never to be stuck in a fight. If a boss is too fast and you can't get a hit in, you can try out a mix of blades and handles. If you want to keep a boss at a distance, you can use the shuriken prosthetic. And if a boss seems weak to a specific status effect, you can try multiple different ways of applying said status. To me, this is the perfect way of introducing variation in your game. There's a limited amount of blades and handles, it's fast and easy to try multiple combinations, and you find yourself theorizing about what is the best approach for any specific boss. I don't find myself feeling like I'm stuck or standing still because of the variation and option in Lies of P or Sekiro. Both games are crafted beautifully, in a way where even if you fail a fight multiple times, they feel fair, because every time you fight an enemy, you will learn new things which will help you create a better strategy. While Lies of P has its similarities to other Soulslikes, it also differs in some, in my mind, key ways. Lies of P also introduces a few quality of life updates, such as having icons shown next to an area where a quest continues or an item can be used. While I understand that some people might find it too easy or boring to just kinda get the answer, I can't help but to compare it to how in Dark Souls you're often left wandering around with no guidance at all, just looking for a hidden item, path, or character. Take the quest of Siegmeyer of Katarina. While following him along by just exploring is relatively easy, finding out he has a daughter was essentially impossible without following a guide. A simple icon on the fast travel menu could have helped me figure out the general area without having to Google and get the discovery spoiled. Lies of P also removes stat requirements for weapons and armor details, so the weight limit is the only thing which decides upon what you're able to use at any given time. This further allows you to try out new weapons, choose your own playstyle, and if you'd like to, you can decide to mainly level your capacity to be allowed to carry heavier weapons and armor. The capacity stat also has the added bonus of increasing the amount of usage you can get out of your Legion arm. In Sekiro, your prosthetic arm is limited by your amount of spirit emblems, and you either have to find more or buy them to be able to use your full arsenal. I don't think I need to explain why this is bad, since the most effective way to get more is to grind basic enemies. Some of the bosses in Dark Souls are rough to get through. We have Nito with his annoying stab attack, Manus who is almost impossible to read, and the Bed of Chaos who is not really even a boss fight but just a long run back. It's rare for me to get truly angry. It's an emotion which I feel very uncomfortable with. I find it scary to lose my temper. The lack of control over my brain and the lingering feeling of rage feels not necessarily like a failure, but shameful. When I get mad at these bosses, it's not a deep hatred, usually, but there are qualities in the big boss monsters of Dark Souls which infuriate me more than any of the enemies in Lies of P. A giant enemy whose animations are impossible to read because of its sheer size, and then you're forced to roll perfectly for every attack, is not always very fun. Lies of P does have a few larger boss monsters, but being able to parry or block essentially every attack allows you to just learn the pattern by listening to the sound of the blocks. It also helps that the boss monsters are very well telegraphed, and even if they are bigger than you, they're oftentimes not so big that their attacks go outside of the screen. And maybe it's just my preferences, but I tend to find the fights in Lies of P to just be more satisfactory overall. The parrying, especially versus those human-sized enemies, gives you an intense sense of satisfaction, and Sekiro does this pretty damn well too. Rolling, running, and dodging are still viable and sometimes even required in these games, but it feels more like a choice and another tool in your toolkit. If I find a strategy like only parrying not working in my favor, I can try running around or dodging to see if that makes a fight easier. But in Dark Souls there are only really two options. Either learn every single attack and learn how to roll them perfectly, or use the heaviest armor you can find and just tank the hits. I'm not saying that you can't get good, or even enjoy the time with the bosses in Dark Souls. I'm just saying that for me, the variety and options that Lies of P presents allows me to have a better time trying to understand my enemies. Further, the bosses tend to make me less annoyed because of the well-telegraphed attacks, the shorter runbacks, and the satisfaction of actually beating them. Sure, it can be infuriating to fail multiple times, but the anger tends to fade away quicker in Lies of P because I instantly start to think about what I can do differently. I don't need to sit with the anger or annoyance for very long, and it's easy to get back up and try again. Adding to the satisfaction of beating a boss is the story, the world building, and the interactions which adapt to the bosses you've beaten. Not only is there often build-ups of hints about the next big boss enemy in an area, but afterwards it's common for the characters to comment on your success. Despite all of the quality of life changes, to me the most important one is that of the world and story. From Software is really good at making non-linear worlds and stories. They are masters at environmental world building, using item descriptions to explain lore, and by minimizing the impact of dialogues, they force the player to interact with the different gameplay mechanics. But to me, it's just not good enough. I want to know why I'm doing this. Why is my character this focused on the specific goal? And why should I care? It's rare for me to get answers to these questions in Soulslikes. But in Lies of P, they make it clear very early on who you are, why you want to stop the frenzy, and you care because you meet people who you build a relationship with. Like, why should I care about the NPCs who barely have any character and are just there to sell you stuff? The two main companions you have in Dark Souls die at the end of their quest lines, so it's not like I'm helping them. Lies of P's world is also way more linear. The world is divided into multiple areas, which you can move through linearly, and every area is divided into different key locations. Moving from one key location to another requires you to explore, fight enemies, and open new paths. Lies of P's usage of shortcuts is amazing. Whenever you see a locked gate, you instantly know if you're able to open it or not. There are ladders, buttons, and keys, and sometimes even the story expands on the connections between different areas. The point is that you will never feel stuck or lost because of the world design, and yet you don't miss out on that satisfaction and relief that you feel when you find a shortcut back to the start of an area. Maybe it ties back to my feelings of isolation, but having an emotional anchoring to the characters allow me to better understand the characters' motivations, allowing me to actually feel like I want to complete the game. A more structured world also allows me to feel more comfortable when exploring by having every path be more distinct. I don't feel bad about taking one path over another, and there is only one true way forwards. A more linear game also allows for better strength scaling with the player. In Dark Souls, Sekiro, or especially Elden Ring, since you can explore a large chunk of the world out of order, it's easy to end up fighting a late game boss with early game gear, and then leveling up and fighting early game bosses with late game strength. This could lead to multiple challenging fights, followed by a walk in the park. While in Lies of P, because of its linearity, the fights will always be scaled in relation to how much you've leveled up. Yes, you can grind and get overpowered, but I guess that's on you. If you just play the game and level your weapons and utility as you go along, you will end up with challenging yet fair fights no matter what. The linearity also allows for the world design, the items, and the character interactions to actually make sense. Because the dialogue options are based upon where you're at in relation to the boss fights, and the boss fights are structured linearly, the characters can congratulate you on beating specific bosses and give you hints upon where to go next.
Ah, I heard you defeated the King of Puppets. Amazing. The puppets appear lost without their leader.
P also experiences some character development during the game. Depending on if you decide to lie or tell the truth, it impacts his interactions with the other characters, as well as his looks. Depending on how human P becomes by lying or listening to music, his hair grows longer and he can finally pet the cat. But it's not only P that gets humanized during the game's runtime. While the basic enemies are just seen as frenzied puppets or zombies, some of the bosses and mini-bosses talk before, during, and after the fights. Take the robber weasel. They fight you in the middle of the destruction of the central station. As you walk up to them, they try to intimidate you into giving them your valuables.
You lost, little lamb. Hand over all you got.
But if you defeat them, they express their sadness and how they just wanted not to be hungry.
I don't want to die. I just wanted a full belly. That's not so wrong.
The words themselves would make you feel pity, but the performance, at least to me, makes the weasel sound scared and alone. In this world where it's kill or be killed, where food is scarce and there are multiple things out to get you at any time, the weasel might just have needed a friend. Even some of the puppets are humanized in their backstory, like how the parade master used to be a happy puppet that spread joy across Krot, how the scrapped watchman used to be popular with the kids and reacted to their playing, and how Romeo, the king of puppets, used to be best friends with Carlo, the child. In a second playthrough, you're also able to learn more from the puppets as you're able to decipher their language. You end up fighting puppets who might just want to help you. I think it's easy for us to see the absolute worst in others and ourselves sometimes. As someone who can be quite self-critical, it's not always to my benefit, and I can't handle praise very well. Despite this, I think Lies of P and Soulslikes in general can help us get past some of our struggles. They can help with anxiety, loneliness, and a lack of direction in our daily life. It allows us to express our individuality while creating community. We can attach ourselves to a story, a world, or characters, and for just a moment we can experience the bliss of overcoming a hurdle. If you could forget your anxiety during this video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe for more content like this. I would also love to hear your thoughts down below, and if you think I deserve it, feel free to share this video with a friend. My name's Turtle-kun. Remember to eat well, sleep well, and I will see you in the next video.